Hi guys, my name's Ashley, aka FitFlex Vegan, and this is my second YouTube video ever. So if you haven't seen my first YouTube video, please go ahead and check it out. I titled it my first YouTube video, Conquering My Fear, and that's because I have been wanting to start a YouTube channel for quite a while now, and I had a lot of internal conflicts and struggles that were holding me back from finally just doing it and making it happen. So in that video I talk about that and the fear that was involved that was holding me back. So go ahead and check it out because it might give a little bit more context to this video. Anyways though, this video is about me and my story. So a little bit about me currently. I'm currently 20 years old. I graduated high school in 2015. Before I started high school, I had grown up going to charter schools my entire life. So I wore uniforms my whole life, and my 8th grade class had 50 people in it. That was kind of my life. I had a small, really tight group of friends, and then right before I started high school, my family and I decided to move to a new area. So 5 days before I started high school, I found myself in a new area. I didn't know anyone. I had never been able to wear regular clothes to school. I was super insecure, extremely intimidated when I first started high school because my high school had around 2,000 to 2,500 people, and my previous school, like I said, was really small. So what happened was my freshman year, because I was kind of a little bit lost, I didn't really know who I was as an individual, I found myself in a relationship that was not healthy for me, primarily because I was not a healthy, well-rounded individual myself. So my life ended up becoming that relationship. I would sit there and get mad about, not having a lot of friends or not feeling like I had really good close friends, but at the same time, I wasn't really as good of a friend to the friends that I had as I could have been. My entire life became the relationship. I was so wrapped up and absorbed in it that it was like my life was just full of drama, and I didn't have any hobbies or really very many personal interests outside of the relationship. It was so unhealthy and codependent. It was ridiculous. But that ended. It ended up ending my sophomore year or something like that. So I spent close to 2 years wrapped up mentally in this relationship. And then when it was over, I was like, shit. Excuse my language, but I was like, crap, I feel like I don't really know who I am. I was really emotional because of it, because that relationship had been my identity, that when I got out of it, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know too much about myself because I hadn't been actively working on myself as an individual. Me as an individual ceased to exist as soon as I got into that relationship. So when I got out of it, I was like, crap. So, that was a really, really low point for me. I remember just wanting to isolate myself, and I remember being extremely angry at everyone in the world. My family, because they weren't very supportive of the relationship from the get-go. And so, it was a really tough time for me. A couple of months after it ended, I was so fed up with just feeling like crap that I decided that I needed to do something that would get me excited again. And so I started doing some research, and I found an online volunteer abroad program for students, and it was December of, 2013, December 30th, 2013, and that was the day that I was looking online, looking for different travel volunteer opportunities, just because I felt like I needed something new, needed something exciting to divert my energy into, even though I didn't really consciously realize it at the time. And so I found this 3-week-long volunteer trip in India, and it was the following summer. So that was December of 2014. 2013, and the trip was in the summer of 2014. And right away, immediately, I decided that it was going to happen. Absolutely decided it was going to happen no matter what. And so I started telling everybody about it. I started fundraising. I did a lot of fundraisers to help me get the money to go on the trip. And, you know, 6 months later, June 2014 rolls around, and it's the last day of school. I had finals, and on the last day of school my junior year, I flew to India all by myself to meet up with a group of people that I had never met and to go see what I was about to experience. It's interesting because I realize now that I decided to go on the trip because I needed something to challenge myself and to something that would get my focus off of how I was feeling. So I needed a challenge, I needed to shift my focus, and I needed to do something for other people so that I wouldn't be so absorbed on, like, all up in my drama, like, mentally, that I didn't really know how to deal with at the time. So I went on this trip. It was an amazing, extremely eye-opening experience. I ended up working in a really small school, working with a class of 10 second graders, and it was crazy because, you know, the school, like the classroom that held 10 kids, 10 second graders, was smaller than my bedroom is, and my bedroom's really not even that big. I saw people living in absolute poverty and people that didn't have very many things at all, but at the same time, they didn't seem to mind. They were so much happier than a lot of people that I had seen from where I was from and what I, you know, experienced in my bubble on a day-to-day basis. And so when I came back, it was really difficult for me, not gonna lie, because I feel like when I went on the trip, my, like, perception of the world was just shattered. Because I'd never been anywhere too different from what I was used to. So I came home, and not gonna lie, I felt like absolute crap again, because I realized that, you know, in going on the trip, I put all this emphasis on it without realizing it. I thought that, like, going on the trip, I would, you know, go and find myself, and that I would discover, like, who I am and what I'm passionate about, and, you know, what I wanted to do after high school and all of these things. And I came back, and all of those things, I didn't get any answers. I came back and realized I was still the exact same person as I was before I left, and I still had all the exact same issues that I had before I left, except for in putting all this emphasis on the trip, I just postponed me actually, like, dealing with them and figuring them out, figuring out what they even were in the first place. So I came back, and all I knew was that I was not happy. I was really not happy, but at the same time, I felt like crap for not feeling happy, because I felt guilty because I had seen people that were happy that had way less than I had. So I started to feel so bad about it that I started really isolating myself from people, and, you know, from there it was kind of like a downward spiral, because when you're feeling bad about something, and from what I've found, at least from my own personal experience, and you don't voice it, it just makes you more and more pessimistic the more that you hold it in. So that was my experience, you know. It started to get worse and worse, because I felt like nobody could really understand me, because nobody that I lived around had gone and experienced what I had experienced. And I felt like nobody got me, and I was mad about people not getting me. So I was playing this, like, big victim role in my life, like, mad at just, you know, people that I thought were my friends and my family, and I ended up realizing later on, and something that I now realize, is that it had nothing to do with anybody else except for myself. But, you know, I started experiencing extreme, like, high ups and downs in my mood. So, like, for a week-long period, I would be super energetic, like, like, on top of the world. And then for, like, 2 weeks after that, typically is what it was, I would, like, just crash. And I would be so just, like, angry, and I would, like, lash out on my family, and I would just, like, I would sleep and sleep and sleep as much as I could. So I mean, when this was like the worst for me, I remember there was like a period of time when I would miss school 3 days out of the week on average, just because I wanted to stay home and sleep as much as I could, because I felt like if I didn't have the energy to, like, sort of fake it that day, because I didn't want anybody to really know because I was isolating myself. If I didn't have the energy to sort of fake it that day, then I just wouldn't go to school. So you know, I would stay home and sleep all day long, and for me, sleep was like a trial period of death. And that's because when you sleep, you don't have to think anything, you don't have to feel anything. And so I just found myself sleeping as much as I possibly could, and when I was awake, I was angry, you know, I was angry at myself. I always just, I was filled with so much hate, I can't even really put it into words that well. I hated everything about my life. I hated everything about myself. It was not a good time for me. And so my mom obviously picked up on, you know, what I was experiencing and what I was going through, and so she's like, okay, like, let's go, let's take you to the psychiatrist. So her and I went to the psychiatrist, and I was lucky enough to have her there with me and to have her support through that time period. But I remember, like, sitting on the couch in the little room with the psychiatrist for like 5-10 minutes, and I started, you know, telling this lady, like, what was going on with me, what I was feeling and experiencing. And, like, at the end of it, she's like, okay, you know, your symptoms seem to be in line with that of somebody that has bipolar disorder. And so, you know, I already knew that something was not right with me. And so instead of being upset about it, I was actually excited. I was like, okay, like, I've been feeling all these things, but now there's a solution. I'm bipolar. That's the answer. I have an answer. Problem, solution. Now from here, we can figure out what I have to do to treat this problem that I have, which is the problem is that I'm bipolar. Okay, so, you know, she gave me medication. I started on the medication. I was feeling hopeful, and the medication I took for about a month and a half, and it made me feel the absolute worst I've ever felt in my entire life. I was sleeping more and more. I was feeling suicidal, and now looking back on it, I realized that this the things that I was experiencing and it heightening my depression and making it even worse can sometimes be a side effect of certain medication. But at the time, in my mind, I didn't care. I just, like, associated all this pain that was increased for me to medication, like every medication out there. So my mom was like, okay, this medication's not working for you, let's take you back, let's put you on another one. And I was like, not doing it. I hated, like, the thing I hated most about being depressed and feeling the way that I was feeling was that I was not in control. At least I thought I was not in control of the way that I felt. So that being the number one thing that I hated the most, and the medication, like, taking even the little control that I had, taking it away even more, was something I was not interested in experimenting with again. So at that point, I just kind of came to the realization that if I wanted to feel good about myself, I was actually going to have to work on myself. And I think that right around that time is when I finally started to get out of that whole like victim mentality that I was in, like, you know, it's this, like, it's their fault, like, it's their fault, or like even like, you know, victimizing like myself and like, you know, saying negative things to myself all the time and just hating like myself and everything. At that point I realized I was gonna have to take responsibility for how I was feeling, and it was nobody else's responsibility except for my own, for me to feel good, for me to be happy and all of that. So that's right around the time when I started doing research online, reading articles, watching YouTube videos. YouTube was a huge resource for me because I started watching videos of people that had or were experiencing depression, mainly people that had experienced depression and that had overcome it. So for me, like, hearing people's stories and experiences really helped me because it gave me hope, first of all, that I could deal with it and figure it out myself. But also I started like getting into personal development stuff via YouTube and then even books. And from there I started to focus on feeding my mind powerful, beneficial information. So instead of spending a Saturday binge watching Grey's Anatomy or Gossip Girl, you know, I would binge watch YouTube videos. And seriously, that's like, it had such a big impact on me, I can't even put it into words. But that was kind of like my senior year. I started working on my psychology and I realized that knowledge is power. So I started learning strategies on how to cope with the feelings that I was experiencing. From there, I graduated high school in 2015 and I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling a lot better, but I definitely was not feeling as good as I knew that I could be feeling. I was still really insecure and like not very confident and not sure of myself and what I wanted to do. I really didn't have much of an idea about what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about, all of those things. And that's right around the time that I discovered veganism. So as I started researching veganism more, I realized that not only were the foods I was eating affecting my own physical and mental health, but that they were also affecting literally every single thing outside of myself. And by that I mean, I learned that the foods I was eating, aka animal products, were negatively impacting the environment. And as human beings living on planet Earth, we depend on the well-being of our environment. So I realized if I don't want to potentially negatively impact the future of the human race and our ability to not only survive but to thrive on this planet, then I had to make a change. I realize now that I'm the type of person that is most motivated and most inspired to do something and take action when it affects other people and not myself. I have never been the type of person to want to cause harm to anything, anybody, no one. So learning that I was doing so and that I didn't even realize it was it for me. That's when it clicked. That's when I made the decision to go vegan, and it's been almost a year and a half now and I've never looked back. But anyways, what was awesome about me switching to a vegan diet was that I started to eat plant-based foods. So a lot of fruits and vegetables. Cutting out animal products out of my diet meant that I was eating more alkaline foods instead of more acidic based foods, and my energy levels went through the roof. In the first month of me going vegan, I actually lost 20 pounds and I wasn't trying to lose weight at all. I feel like that was just my body being like, okay, this is right for you. Bam, we're gonna shed off all this excess stuff that you don't need. So, anyways, as I started to feel better and have more energy, I started to have the energy to do the things that I knew would be good for me. You know, like somebody that's depressed, most of the time almost always, they know the things that they could and should be doing to make themselves feel better, but the problem is that they can't seem to find the energy / motivation to actually do those things. So when my energy levels went through the roof, I had the energy to start exercising on a more consistent basis, and I started to actually take it seriously. I had been into exercising and lifting weights prior to going vegan, but it wasn't like I had ever done it for more than like a couple of weeks at a time without taking like a 2 or 3 week break. So eventually down the line, I realized exercise and working out makes me feel good. Now I view working out as my medicine. The two things that I say that are my medicine and that keep me sane and keep me feeling good and keep me feeling the way that I feel now, as opposed to how I used to feel when I was depressed and considered bipolar and all of these things, is my diet and working out. So now I'm 20 years old. It's been almost 2 years since I graduated high school. I'm a completely different person, and I just have such a different energy about me. I feel like I'm super excited about life at this point. I can only wait to see what life has in store for me and what I will be able to do in my lifetime. And, you know, establishing this core foundation that I've worked so hard to get to, you know, getting a hold of my psychology, my mental health, you know, the way that I think about things, the thoughts that I have, and by learning through YouTube and articles and personal development books. In addition, you know, my diet, eating a plant-based diet, and exercising and getting myself moving, my body, because you know, the body and the mind are extremely connected. So getting all of these 3 things under control has allowed me to build a super solid foundation that now I'm at a point in my life where I'm just super stoked about life. Like, I can't wait to see what's gonna happen, you know, what I'm gonna be able to do, what I'm gonna be able to create, and hopefully how many lives I'm gonna be able to impact by sharing these things that have changed my life and that I'm super passionate about. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, especially if you got this far into the video. You are awesome. You freaking rock. So please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. The whole focus of my channel is going to be on personal development and psychology, veganism and fitness, as well as me sharing some of my experiences from what I've been through and what I'm currently working on and striving for in my life. So go ahead and subscribe. Also check me out on Instagram at FitFlexVegan. Yeah. Okay guys, have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting from everyone. Talk to you guys later.